I want to say a few words about my father, Abdul Mannan Chaudhury, whose picture is here. This is derived from a photo he had, and a very powerful artist. He saw the photo and made a painting. So Abdul Mannan Chaudhury is a person who made a big difference in the lives of people for decades. But unfortunately, like many other people of his generation, people don't know so much about it. So it is my duty to introduce my father to the new generation. He was born in this place, in this house, in 1896, and his father's name was Abdul Chaudhury. Abdul Chaudhury, my grandfather, was the leader of the whole Kanihati clan. He was a designated zamindar. The British had set up this system of being every family or clan to have a designated person to interact with the government in those days around the First World War. So Abdul Chaudhury, my grandfather, he was very active in early days, interacting with the British administration to set up railway here. Our railway was set up in 1912. The tea garden people came here in about 1880s to 1890s. So we have voluminous record of how Abdul was dealing with this people who came over from Europe to set up railway, to set up tea gardens, etc. My father, his nickname was Ibrahim, and his formal name was Abdul Mannan Chaudhury. He was born in 1896 and 1930, so his early days I don't know too much about it. Other than that, he, along with my uncle, my father's first cousin Abdul Mannan Chaudhury, who is our next door neighbor, is my uncle Abdul Mannan Chaudhury. His name was Sulaiman, and my father's name was Ibrahim. They, as youngsters, they were very close friends, and they used to often go over to different parts of Assam in those days, because their uncle Tajummul Ali Chaudhury, whose house is that way, he was the first deputy commissioner among Muslims in the province of Assam, and he was the deputy commissioner of the Gwalpara district. And my father and my uncle Ibrahim and Sulaiman, as youngsters, they used to go over to their uncle's house and other places in Assam in those days. I can see that from the kind of letters they exchanged with each other. So I try to imagine what kind of life they had. So my father, at the age of, he was born in 1896. So at the age of, in 1930, at the age of 34, he became the chairman of what was called South Sylhet local board, which is now the Malvi district. British gave the first election in 1930, and he won that election and he became a chairman of South Sylhet local board. And another important person in those days in Sylhet, Krishan Foundation Pty Ltd, who later married my father's cousin, our Pupu, Mr. Tajummul Ali's daughter. Krishan Foundation became chairman of Habiganj district, and my father became chairman of the Malvi district. So from 1930 to early 1940s, he was the chairman, and he was widely known as Chairman Shahab because of that. And he actually was instrumental in making all the roads that exist, which used to be called local board roads. And he was very patriotic. He was kind of anti-colonial, anti-British. And he had a lot of very turbulent, exciting interaction with the early days in the British administration and the tea garden British people, that he very vigorously defended the local people against the British. One good example, somebody told me that when the roads, local board roads were set up, one of our local businessmen bought a car and he was driving his car. Except that when he entered the tea garden with his car, he was stopped by the tea administration, and they said that no Indian is allowed to drive their car in this tea garden roads, and he was actually stopped from driving his car. So he came to my father and he complained. So my father was very enraged because he was very anti-colonial, nationalistic type, and he organized for people to intercept that. So that guy was a tea garden manager, a very important British guy, and when he drove his car into local board road, my father advised the people to go stop his car, and he said, why am I not being allowed to drive, and he was told, no, you cannot, just like we cannot drive on your tea garden road, you cannot drive on the local board road. So someone, when I was a little child and I used to go around, a lot of people used to come to me and talk about my father. So one guy told me that, and he was very proud of his activities, my father's activities. And he said, oh, Chairman Sahib was a great leader for us, and he was not afraid about he was not afraid of the British, and he spoke very fluent kind of English. So true to this spirit, my father, after partition, after 1947, he joined the labor union movement, international labor movement actually, and he organized the tea garden workers, linked up with Mr. Aftab Ali, who was the International Seamen's Association leader, and used to go to London and Geneva in those days, and even Cuba he went in the early 50s. From 50 to 56, 1950 to 1956. He passed away in 1956, but these 6 years he was very active in London, in Geneva, in Havana, in Bandung, Indonesia, etc. So, and he was a good writer. He used to write what he was thinking. His English was very good, although he didn't have a lot of formal education. And whatever speech he gave to those ILO congresses, I actually have access to that, and they are really very powerful, very clear thinking, very deployment of language, and really altruistic spirit, always wanting to work for the people, always wanting to work to change the society. And when I grew up and I was aware of his, I don't know whether I was consciously imitating him or I am inherently of the same nature, but I also found that I did not really want to promote myself or get promoted and say I'm the managing director or I have so much salary, and I have that instinct was completely not in me, just like it was not in him. So he died in 1956 in London, and people who knew him in his last days, I connected with them, and they told me how he died and what his preoccupations were. His preoccupations always were the fate of the common people of this area, the school, the madrasa, the girls' school. His mind was just full of it. And one guy, he was a student in the days that my father passed away, told me that Mannan Sahib could not even swallow the food because he had cancer of the upper digestive system. And even in this condition, when he had trouble swallowing his food, he was concerned about a particular school, and he was, in those days he had to do trunk call, and he was sending messages, telegrams, because certain things were going to happen to a school in the village. So this is what he did till his last days. I don't think people know about him that much, and people ought to know about him, and not because he's my father, but because he was a person who made a big difference in the society. And that kind of altruism, that kind of devotedness has created civilized society actually. So it is important for us to talk about him, his life, people of his generation, not because just to celebrate them, but to celebrate the message that they were conveying, which is that all our activity should be dedicated towards the welfare of the society. So I am very proud of my father, not just because he was my father, as every son would be proud of his father, of course, that aspect is there. But I am proud of him because of what he was and what he dreamt of and what he wanted to do in the society. Thank you.